Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. Today I am going to describe my short story, Inner Peace, the Real Definition of Success. The city never seemed to sleep. Even at midnight, the streets below Rajiv Malhotra's penthouse apartment glowed with lights from vehicles, office buildings, restaurants, and giant advertising screens. Standing beside the photo ceiling glass window of his luxurious apartment on the 35th floor, Rajiv looked down at the bustling city that had become both his kingdom and his prison. At 45 years old, he was considered one of the most successful businessmen in the region. He owned multiple companies, employed thousands of people, and had accumulated wealth that most people could only dream about. Financial magazines frequently featured his interviews. Business schools invited him to speak about leadership, and young entrepreneurs treated him as a role model. Yet, on that particular night, as he stared at the endless stream of headlights moving through the darkness below, he felt a strange emptiness growing inside him. The success he had worked so hard to achieve seemed unable to provide the satisfaction he had imagined during his younger years. Rajiv remembered the small town where he had grown up. His father had been a school teacher who believed that education and hard work were the greatest assets a person could possess. The family had never been wealthy, but they lived comfortably enough. During his childhood, Rajiv often watched successful businessmen arriving in expensive cars, wearing elegant suits, and commanding the respect of everyone around them. He became convinced that wealth was the ultimate solution to life's problems. He promised himself that one day he would rise above the limitations of his humble background and build a filled with abundance. That dream fueled every decision he made. He studied relentlessly, earned scholarships, graduated from a prestigious university, and entered the business world with extraordinary determination. While his friends spent weekends relaxing, Rajiv worked. While others enjoyed vacations, he attended seminars and networking events. His ambition became the center of his identity. That strategy worked. By his mid 30s, Rajiv had achieved financial success beyond his expectations. Each accomplishment brought excitement, but the excitement never lasted. When he purchased his first luxury car, he felt proud for a few weeks before becoming accustomed to it. When he bought his dream house, he experienced happiness for several months before beginning to focus on acquiring something even larger. Every milestone that once seemed capable of transforming his life eventually became ordinary. Without realizing it, he had entered a cycle that many ambitious people experience. Every achievement created a brief emotional high, followed by a return to dissatisfaction and the pursuit of another goal. The destination always seemed just a little farther away. His personal life gradually suffered as a result. His wife, Neha, often tried to spend more time with him, but business meetings consistently took priority. His children grew older while he remained occupied with expansion plans, investment opportunities, and corporate negotiations. He loved his family deeply, yet he convinced himself that his sacrifices were necessary because he was building a secure future for them. Years passed before he recognized that financial security alone could not replace emotional presence. By the time he noticed the distance developing within his family relationships, the habit of prioritizing work over everything else had become deeply ingrained. One evening, Rajiv attended his daughter Ananya's school function. It was one of the few events he had managed to attend in recent years. During the ceremony, students were invited to speak about the people they admired most. Rajiv expected his daughter to mention him. After all, he had worked tirelessly to provide every opportunity she could ever need. Instead, Ananya spoke about her grandfather. She described how he listened patiently to her stories, helped her with school projects, and made time for family conversations. Her words were innocent and sincere, but they struck Rajiv like a thunderbolt. As he sat in the audience listening to her speech, he realized that despite everything he had achieved professionally, he had become largely absent from the moments that mattered most in his daughter's life. That realization stayed with him long after the ended. For the first time, he began questioning the assumptions that had guided his entire life. If success was supposed to create happiness, why did he feel increasingly restless? Why did every achievement seem to lose its meaning so quickly? Why did he constantly feel pressured to accomplish more even after accomplishing so much? These questions haunted him during sleepless nights. He tried distracting himself with work, but the doubts continued to surface. Deep inside, he sensed that something fundamental was missing. Several months later, Rajiv experienced an unexpected health scare. During an important board meeting, he suddenly felt dizzy and struggled to breathe. Concerned colleagues rushed him to a hospital where doctors conducted a series of examinations. Fortunately, there was no serious medical emergency, but the doctors delivered a warning that he could not ignore. Years of chronic stress, poor sleep, and relentless pressure were taking a significant toll on his health. One doctor spoke bluntly. He explained that wealth could purchase excellent medical treatment, but it could not guarantee peace of mind or protect someone indefinitely from the consequences of an unhealthy lifestyle. The conversation unsettled Rajiv more than any business challenge he had ever faced. Following medical advice, he reluctantly agreed to take a short break from work. Unsure of what to do with his time, he traveled to a quiet mountain region that he had visited briefly during his college years. Unlike the noisy city, the mountains possessed a peaceful rhythm. The mornings arrived with birdsong rather than traffic. The evenings arrived with the evenings were accompanied by silence instead of endless notifications from phones and computers. Initially, Rajiv felt uncomfortable. His mind remained consumed by business concerns. Even while surrounded by natural beauty, he kept thinking about emails, financial reports, and unfinished projects. Yet, as the days passed, something began to change. One morning, while walking on a forest trail, Rajiv encountered an elderly man sitting beside a small stream. The old man appeared completely at ease, observing the flowing water with quiet attention. There was nothing remarkable about his clothing or appearance, yet he radiated a calmness that immediately caught Rajiv's attention. After exchanging greetings, they began talking. The elderly man introduced himself as Devendra, a retired professor who had chosen to spend his later years in the mountains. Their conversation lasted several years. Rajiv found himself discussing concerns he had never shared openly with anyone. He spoke about success, pressure, expectations, anxiety, and the strange emptiness he felt having, despite having everything he once desired. Devendra listened carefully before asking a simple question. When you were 20 years old, what did you believe success would feel like? Rajiv thought for a moment. I believed it would bring freedom, happiness, and peace. The old man smiled gently and asked, "And has it?" Rajiv looked away towards the stream. The honest answer was obvious. Devendra picked up a small stone and dropped it into the water. Rippled spread across the surface before gradually disappearing. Many people spend their entire lives chasing the ripples, he said quietly. They believe the next achievement, the next purchase, or the next recognition will finally complete them. But peace does not come from constantly adding things to life. Sometimes peace comes from understanding what is unnecessary. Those words lingered in Rajiv's mind throughout the following days. He began spending time alone, reflecting on the direction of his life. For years, he had measured success almost entirely through external achievements. Revenue growth, market share, investments, and public recognition had become the metrics through which he evaluated his worth. Yet none of these measurements addressed the quality of his inner life. He had learned how to build companies, but he had never learned how to cultivate contentment. He had mastered business strategy, yet he had neglected self understanding. The realization was uncomfortable, but it was also liberating. As the weeks passed, Rajiv developed new habits. He started each morning by sitting quietly and observing his thoughts. At first, the practice seemed pointless. His mind wandered constantly. However, he gradually became aware of how much of his mental energy was spent worrying about future events or replaying past experiences. Rarely did he fully experience the present moment. This awareness marked the beginning of a profound transformation. He started appreciating small, simple experiences that he had previously overlooked: the warmth of sunlight, meaningful conversations, the sound of rain, and moments of genuine connection with other people. When Rajiv eventually returned to the city, his external circumstances remained largely unchanged. He still owned businesses, attended meetings, and managed responsibilities. The difference existed within him. He no longer viewed success as a destination waiting somewhere in the future. Instead, he began understanding success as a way of living. He involved balance rather than endless accumulation. It involved gratitude rather than constant comparison. It involved meaningful relationships rather than social status. More importantly, it involved cultivating inner peace regardless of external circumstances. Over the following years, Rajiv discovered that challenges did not disappear simply because his perspective had changed. Business setbacks continued to occur. Economic fluctuations affected markets. Personal disappointments remained part of life. However, he responded differently. Instead of allowing every problem to disturb his emotional balance, he approached difficulties with greater patience and clarity. He realized that inner peace was not the absence of problems, it was the ability to remain centered while facing them. This understanding became one of the most valuable lessons of his life. The people around him noticed the transformation. His family relationships improved significantly because he became more present and attentive. Employees appreciated his calmer leadership style. Friends observed that he smiled more frequently and seemed genuinely happier. Ironically, many aspects of his professional life improved after he stopped allowing professional success to define his entire identity. He worked with focus and dedication, but he no longer sacrificed everything else in the process. For the first time, achievement and peace existed together rather than competing against each other. Years later, when younger entrepreneurs asked Rajiv for advice about becoming successful, they expected discussions about investment strategies and business tactics. While he certainly shared practical knowledge, he also always emphasized one lesson above all others. He explained that wealth, recognition, and accomplishment could enhance life, but they could never replace inner peace. A person who possesses enormous wealth yet lives in constant anxiety may appear successful to the world while feeling deeply unhappy inside. Conversely, a person who possesses moderate resources but enjoys contentment, meaningful relationships, and emotional balance may experience a richer life than many millionaires. According to Rajiv, true success was not determined solely by what a person owned but also by the state of mind with which they lived. The lesson took him decades to understand. The peace he spent years searching for had never been hidden behind another promotion, investment, or achievement. It had been waiting within him all along, buried beneath ambition, comparison, fear, and endless striving. Once he learned to quiet the noise and listen to himself honestly, he discovered a truth that transformed his life forever. Inner peace was not a reward for success. Inner peace was the real definition of success. Disclaimer: this story is a fictional work created for educational, inspirational, and entertainment purposes. The characters, events, and situations described are imaginary. The themes related to success, happiness, emotional well being, and inner peace reflect general perspectives and should not be considered professional, psychological, medical, financial, or counseling advice. Readers are encouraged to draw their own interpretations and apply any lessons according to their individual circumstances and judgment. Thank you very much for your patience. Please like and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel.